Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Freighter.com to find out how.
Who doesn't need a seasonal wardrobe update? But who has the cash to always keep their wardrobe updated? Ladies, that's why you shop St. Vincent de Paul. Our women's clothing is always a highlight of our stores, and thrift store prices keep the costs low. It allows you to experiment and also find a hidden gem. St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
Ooh, you're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
No matter how many people are in your family, buying new jackets for the cold weather months can be expensive. But when you shop St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores, prices on cold weather jackets will give you a sigh of relief because thrift store prices mean great deals. And right now we have a great selection. Find great deals on cold weather jackets for the family at St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
Ooh, you're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Here's a dose of reality. Driving under the influence of prescription painkillers is just as illegal and just as deadly as driving drunk. In fact, there are nearly 2,000 drug-related crashes every year in Wisconsin. Help prevent drug driving and let's achieve zero preventable deaths on Wisconsin roadways. Driving on pills kills. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Departments of Health Services, Transportation, and Justice.
Every year I make the same resolutions.
What, get rid of your husband?
Don't be silly. No, get organized. And I'm finally keeping it.
Because we're turning that cluttered closet into a custom space that actually works.
More shelves, better hanging.
Space for shoes and sanity.
Start the new year with a closet that makes your mornings easier.
It's one resolution you don't have to do alone. We'll design it with you.
Get started at InspiredClosetsMilwaukee.com.
Inspired Closets.
A wife and husband team.
Now that the game is done, it's our time to check in.
Crossing over, what a spin move inside. Counter with another one coming. The Greek Freak made mincemeat of the defense of Drew Eubanks.
Bucks Talk starts now.
After leading by as many as 26 and seeing that lead dwindle to 3, the Bucks will win this game by 17 points in the end, 115-98.
Live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios, here's Justin Garcia.
All right, don't look now, but this Bucks team is suddenly becoming, dare I say, respectable on the road. They've won 3 straight there, 4 of their last 5. And overall, they have this stretch of games, 7 straight against teams with a losing record. With this win, you wrap that up and you go 5-2 in those games, which I think is the baseline of what you needed. You would have much preferred 6-1, and frankly, it should have been 6-1. But 5-2 is a step in the right direction. Now, what can you continue to build on here? Because I think we've talked about the standings quite a bit already on this show, and that's largely because this team just continued to slide further and further and further back in the standings than any of us were, frankly, accustomed to seeing this group sit at. Going back, 8 years? But as cliche as it sounds, you do have to take things one game at a time, and you can only play who's on the schedule in front of you. All of that stuff, it does ring true. So one by one, just stack wins. You did back-to-back wins. That's great. Get a win streak. Win 3 straight. Start to get this 4 out of 5 number. Let's add 3 or 4 more to that, and let's get to a spot where 4 out of 5 is all of a sudden 7 out of 9, right? 8 out of 10, and keep pushing it in that direction because we've said it a lot. The opportunity is still there, right? Even if you've had to reevaluate what your overall expectations are for this team, and maybe you've reevaluated what, in your mind, the ceiling is for this group, the opportunity to continue to climb that ladder exists because of what every team, save for really the Pistons, the Knicks, and the Celtics, are doing in the Eastern Conference. For a while, it was all these teams, really 5 or 6 of them, were kind of lumped together around 500, and they were kind of trading off of, okay, this week it's your turn to go on a run. So we'll give you 5 or 6 games here where you're going to go 5-1, or you're going to win 4 in a row, or 5 in a row, or 6 in a row. And the Bucs were never in that group. Now you have an opportunity to do that. And if the Bulls are going to continue to be inconsistent, if the Atlanta Hawks are going to continue to have all of these struggles that they've had, if teams like the Orlando Magic, who again were just dealt a big blow with Jalen Suggs going down again, if they're going to continue, and the Cavs to hover around 500, that is your opportunity. But we said it a year ago this time, not this time. We said it a year ago, basically, 6 weeks earlier in the season. You have to be an active participant in your own rescue. It's still early enough, but you can't just wait for somebody to come and find you. You have to be engaged in that. And over the course of the last 10 days, we've at least seen this team more engaged in their own rescue than they've been so far this season. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us tonight as the team does what they should have and starts the road trip with a win in Sacramento against the Kings. We'll take a closer look at those standings and the rest of this upcoming road trip coming up when we return on Bucs Talk.
This is Bucs Talk.
Recently, a seller that unfortunately ended up choosing another agent called me. She said she made a mistake, and what she was expressing to me sounded like she kind of was bullied into signing with him. Is it typical? Not always, but it will never happen when you hire a Century 21 Benefit Realty agent. I want our agents to be able to look in the mirror and say, I'd want to work with me. Not because they're good at saying what you want to hear or offer the lowest commission, but because of trust. Because if you're not feeling that from your agent, that's a problem. And I don't want that. At 1.9% on the listing side of your sale with our commission capped at $19,000, Century 21 Benefit Realty leads with a very fair and transparent commission structure with maximum marketing that can get your home sold fast and for the best price. And saving money matters, but working with someone who will tell you exactly what you need to know up front, that creates trust. And that matters too. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Capted Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
Save on your next project, now at Menards. For softer skin and cleaner clothes, shop our great selection of water softeners. Morton's Wi-Fi integration allows for tracking and alerts, which puts you in control of your water while at home or away. Morton's look-ahead technology learns and predicts your water needs, saving you money. Save on Morton water softeners. And don't forget to check out our weekly flyer on menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Welcome back to Bucs Talk.
Bucs start the road trip with a win in Sacramento against the Kings. They go 5-2 in the stretch they had of 7 straight games against teams with a losing record. And we'll point that out as much as possible. That's the caveat here where the numbers are about to get into. But you have definitely seen a different version of this team. For the most part, a more consistent version and largely a better version of this team in that 7-game stretch. You would clearly love to have that Wizards game back and replay that if at all possible. I mean, we've touched on this several times already this season as well, but every team has these games. And I think on one of the most recent games, Wesley Matthews talked about it too, that when you get to March, April, any given season, you often look back at your schedule and you circle some of these games and say, man, if it wasn't for this one, or if only this would have happened, or if that guy wouldn't have hit that shot. And you add these things up and say, well, that's 4 games that we got if those go differently. And we talked about it last year with this team. If 2-8 to start the season was 6-4, which was basically the level the Bucks played at for the duration of the season, they're the 3 seed. That's how much every single game matters. And every team, the point of it, every team has these games. So it's not just the Bucks. But it does feel like the Bucks have a higher volume of these games, especially at this point in the season, than any other team. Like, realistically, you can look at 6, maybe even 7 games this season and say, man, that one was right there, right? If that one went differently, add that to the list, right? Not just games where you look at it and you say, well, you got to beat that team. The way the game was actually played and some of the miscues that you had down the stretch were the big things with this team. You look back at that Sacramento Kings loss, the first time you played the Kings, very, very early in the season. You did not execute down the stretch. And it was a game you should have won. If you win that game, you're 5-1 at the time. But that's one you would add. The Houston Rockets game, you really controlled against a good team. You controlled that game for essentially 3/4 of the game before late game execution. Kevin Durant had some moments. Reed Shepherd had a big fourth quarter against you, a big second half, really. And you let them wiggle off the hook and let that one get away from you. The Sixers game. And that was, I think, the first time we really heard Doc harp on late game execution. And the fact that they had a foul to give, they didn't use it. The Sixers hit a shot, tie the game, it goes to overtime, and then the Sixers ultimately win in overtime. That's one that you really let get away from you. Miami, you hung tough with them, even though you didn't have Giannis. You had opportunities to win that game. And again, you were playing very, very well in the early going. Miami comes back. You still had moments where you just could not execute down the stretch. Obviously, that loss to the Wizards to start the month. December and November and December were both very forgettable months for the Bucks, but December especially, when you look at, you started things with an incredibly disappointing loss. Not only in terms of the record of the opponent you were playing, but the way that you played against an inferior opponent throughout that game. And you gave that team hope and life. And C.J. McCollum and Chris Middleton made you pay. And then you wrap up the month with that same team and same scenario, save for Chris Middleton, who did not hit a field goal, but C.J. McCollum gets the game winner. You would add that. Timberwolves game was very winnable. It was clear they looked past you. And if you just finished executing, that's another one. You lose by a single possession. It was there. Raptors game at home, same thing. So we're up to 6 or 7 games that you would look at and not just say, well, the Bucks are a better team than that team, because again, at 16-20, it's not a matter of saying, well, we're a better team than this team. But if you would have just continued to do the things that were bringing you success in large portions of those games, you obviously don't expect to win every single one of those games. But I do think it's fair to say, man, this team realistically could talk themselves into having 4 more wins than they have right now. And it's at their own doing. It's their own fault for reasons that they're not there. But this team, realistically, you could look at the Bucks and say, they really should be, instead of 16-20, they should really be 20-16. And is that a great record? No. Does that make you in the inner circle of the elites and a team that everybody's saying, well, look out for the Bucks? No. But if you're 20-16, just for context, if you take care of business in those games, you're in a three-way tie with the Magic and Heat for 6th in the Eastern Conference. And that's why we've joked before that, hey, they're a couple of games away from being a couple of games away. Well, depending on what happens tomorrow with the Atlanta Hawks, you may now be a couple of games away. That you took step one of, okay, win consecutive games and start to piece together stretches of solid play. Now the next step is prolong that and start to get firmly in that mix where if the Hawks lose tomorrow, you're tied, but you're, for all intents and purposes, in front of them because you have fewer losses. But if you only executed in some of those games, we're having a much different conversation. And look, even if it's 3 and just say, well, this is who this team is. They're closer to 500 than anything else, so we'll grant you 3 extra wins. 19 and 17, fine. You're still in that mix of the play-in tournament where you're just a couple of games away from getting out of there and potentially, as high as 5th in the Eastern Conference. That's what all of these games mean, even though it's early in the season. 855-616-1620. The Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. They're starting to win more consistently. They're starting to win on the road. For as much as has been made of the Bucks' road woes this season, I think the home record is far more troubling than the road record, and I get it. At one point, it was 4-11 on the road, but 9-9 is nowhere near good enough at home. But let's see where we can get that road record here by the time this trip comes to an end. Up next is the Golden State Warriors. That is Wednesday night, so we'll take a look at that matchup and the other 2 games. In one of them, you're definitely going to be catching a break of sorts. What's it going to look like against the Warriors, and what's it going to look like against that other team on the road trip? We'll take a look at that next on Bucks Talk.
You're listening to Bucks Talk.
Do you have a clear advertising message that assures your potential customers will choose your business over others when they need your goods or services? Will you have time to nurture it so it stays interesting? Can you buy media effectively and cheap enough so that your business stays top of mind? You're a business owner, and we understand how busy you are. And that's why we do these very things to help our clients gain market share and grow their business. Anderson-Smith.com. We help small budget advertisers get better results. Making a big advertising budget work? To us, that's easy. We feel that our ability to make small advertising budgets work in a big way truly demonstrates we really do know what we're doing. And that's why we should talk. We'll take your advertising budget, put it to work, and if history tells us anything, it will be the best investment in your business that you've ever made. Go to Anderson-Smith.com, email me, and I'll call you in short order. Because small or big budget, we help advertisers get better results.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
What's the secret to your success?
Clean living, hard work, and no employees.
You lost me on that last one.
No employees?
Yeah.
That's the secret sizzle that makes Hasselus Mattress so popular.
How are you successful without employees?
You can give our mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy.
Nobody talking down to me or breathing down my neck?
And with no commission-crazed salespeople in the mix, our everyday mattress prices on Beautyrest, Sealy Posturepedic, and more are way low.
How low?
Our Queen Beautyrest Elm Cove A is just $7.94.
Wow.
Plus, free next day delivery. And through Monday, get a free box spring or $300 off an adjustable base with the purchase of any Queen or King size Beautyrest or Sealy Posturepedic mattress.
Since you're a mattress store, you could say Hasselus is an overnight success.
Good one.
Thanks.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at Hasselus.com.
From my family and myself, I would like to say thank you to Gruber Law Offices for taking such good care of us.
I would say thank you because you were so human and so much of a friend during the whole process.
I'm super grateful for them representing me and doing all that they did for me.
I would just say thank you for making me feel better.
That's why I'm here, to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Gruber Law Offices. One call,
That's all.
The round ball repartee returns. This is Bucks Talk.
Bucks start the road trip with a win tonight in Sacramento, taking down the Kings. And 3 straight wins on the road for this group now that was, to put it mildly, a bad road team early in the season. But 7-11 now, still some work to be done there. 9-9 at home, to me, is this is what we got to work on more than anything. If you're going to be 500 at home, you're kind of limiting yourself on what the ceiling of this team is going to be to begin with. But I mentioned, look, it's small sample size theater. And not only that, it's by their record, bad teams that you're doing this against. I would counter if that's what you're going to push back with, I would counter with, we've seen them play bad teams earlier in the season and none of this mattered. The numbers were just as poor. They weren't winning games, and they were losing ugly. And on every single metric you would look at, you couldn't really find much of a positive to say, well, at least they're doing this. So you got to start somewhere. If it's against 7 teams that are below 500, and that serves as, I hesitate to even say springboard, but it gives you a boost to, okay, I'll help you take this step forward. Fine, we'll take it. But in this 7-game stretch, if it seems like, hey, a lot of my frustration has kind of slowly faded away. There's still some there. But overall, I feel like I like a lot of what I've seen from this group in that stretch. It's because the numbers would indicate, yeah, you're not crazy. In this 7-game stretch that dates back to just before Christmas, the Bucks are the number 5 defense in the league. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Miami Heat, and Phoenix Suns are 1, 2, and 3. But the Bucks not that far behind. Cleveland playing better defense, too. Cleveland is 4th. Bucks have basically posted the same offense as the Cavs and just a slightly worse defense than the Cavs. They are number 5 in defensive efficiency in this 7-game stretch. They're number 17 in offense, which that number has to be better. I don't expect 5 to carry through for the rest of the season. That number is eventually going to come down on the defensive end. But offense, I think we expect this team to be close to a top 10 offense and defense. If you can be right around league average, that's the hope. But the way they're doing it defensively is they have been forcing more turnovers. They've been okay, too. It's not just the defense. It's the true shot attempts. They've been okay at protecting the ball. They're 16th in turnover rate. And I do think, regardless of how small the sample size is or who the opponents are, I do think that is valuable to point out because the Bucks were really good the first 5 games of the season. And I know it's not a lot, but the first 5 games of the season, they were really good. In October, they were number 8 in turnover rate. In November, it slid down to, I think, 14th. In December, it was 26th. So if you have this stretch where it's middle of the pack, I'll take that. So the proof is in the pudding, right? Protect the ball, and it's beyond that. It's the new modern math. It's not the 3 is worth more than 2. It's can you get more true shot attempts than your opponent? And so far for most of the season, the answer for the Bucks consistently has been no. Coming into this game tonight, the Bucks' opponent is taking 4.5 more true shots per game than they are. The only team that has a larger discrepancy than that is the Washington Wizards, and theirs is beyond 6. And the issue for the Bucks has been the volume of true shot attempts from their opponent. It's not that they're not getting enough, it's they're giving the opponent too much. Offensive rebounds and turnovers are the killer there. So anything to move the needle more north and say, okay, we're going to even slightly clean up on turnovers. Great. That's going to aid you in those areas. And as we've seen, the Bucks, one of the better true shooting percentages in the league. When they get the shots, effective field goal percentage, all of it, 3-point rate. They're efficient. You just have to have more of those than your opponent. So continue to increase those numbers. And again, cut down on your turnovers. Get more defensive rebounds. Can you get more offensive rebounds? Turnover rate, it's been fine during this 7-game stretch. Overall rebounding rate, so percentage of available rebounds in a game. The Bucks are 10th in this 7-game stretch. Offensive rebounding, not great, right? But for a group that was consistently 29th or 30th, they're 18th on the offensive glass in this stretch. Again, I don't think it's a coincidence. It's not just that it's bad teams. It's that in this stretch, they haven't turned the ball over as much. They've been crashing the offensive boards and scoring off of those. It's no coincidence they're also winning more games. And same story on the defensive glass, right? We've grown accustomed, or we're accustomed to seeing the Bucks as an elite in that category. You know, you think back to really the last 7 years of this era of Bucks basketball. They were an elite rebounding team. They were always in the top 10. Really, they were always in the top 5 in that stretch. And that was all because of their work on the defensive glass. There was just 1 year, and it was the championship year, I believe, where the Bucks actually did embrace offensive rebounding. Other than that, they just dominated the defensive glass and said, look, we're not going to go after the offensive boards. We're going to get back in transition, but we're not giving you offensive rebounds. So, again, the modern math, I mean, it was all applicable back then, too. All right, you're not going to get more of those shot attempts than we are because we're closing the possession with our defensive rebounding rate. So all of those numbers, that's what you expect to see from this group. Now, you're going to have to do it against good teams and better opponents, I should say. But, you got to start somewhere. And they've started this. So let's keep this ball rolling now as the schedule starts to pick up. The next game is Wednesday in San Francisco against the Warriors. And again, it's a Warriors team you've already beaten once this season, albeit it's a bad road team. They're a bad road team, the Golden State Warriors. It's very similar to what we've discussed about the Bucks, especially earlier in the season. But, right now, Golden State on the road is 8-12. It's much different at home, where they're 11-5. And it's the same thing we're saying about the Bucks, right? To win 3 straight on the road, 4 out of 5 to get to 7-11, fine. But it better be the inverse or better at home, and it's not. It's been 500. The Warriors have done that. That's part of why the Warriors are where they are right now. They're a play-in tournament team if the season were to end today at 19-17, so they're not that much beyond 500. And they do play tomorrow night, so a chance to do some scouting, if you so choose, when they go to Inglewood and take on the Clippers in the late game. The Clippers team that had won 6 straight games, and not only won those 6 in a row, they had dominated. Every single one of those wins was by double figures, and the average margin of victory in those wins was 20 points per game. It finally came crashing to a halt against Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics on Saturday night. But similar to what we're saying about the Bucks, the Clippers have started to find some things and play much better here. The big difference is, they've had, I think, more health than the Bucks because they have more of those guys, right? I know Vica Zubac has missed some time. Derek Jones Jr. missed about a month, came back for a couple of games. Now he's going to be on the shelf for at least a month again. So they've dealt with injuries, sure, but they've had James Harden out there consistently. They've, again, another year where you've had more Kawhi Leonard than you've seen in the past. They've just dug themselves an even deeper hole than the Bucks. They're currently 12-22, right? So 6-1 in their last 7 games. Think about where they were before that. 6-21. It's a much deeper hole for them to climb out of, and it's a much tougher conference for them to do it in as well. So that's the difference right now between the Bucks and the Clippers. But we'll see how game Los Angeles is tomorrow night, and if they can get back to what they were doing prior to that loss and that thrashing, really, at the hands of the Boston Celtics, and get a chance to see how this Warriors team responds in a road game, albeit not that far away from home, but still a road game. So we'll see what Golden State's record sits at Wednesday night when the Bucks head to San Francisco to take them on. But look, it starts and ends with Steph Curry. They're a better team when they have Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler on the floor. But the big thing in this matchup is you're not going to contain. You're not going to shut down Steph Curry. And if Steph Curry goes off, then Steph Curry goes off. It's the other guys. It's Jimmy Butler, right? It's Brandon Pajemski. It's those types of guys, and Al Horford, that you look at and you say, it cannot be you. If Steph scores 40, Steph scores 40. But it's not the other guys, and it's even more critical. I think this is another thing. The Bucks have largely done well for most of this month, I would even say. KYP, know your personnel that's out there on the floor. Know who you can close out on, who you can just give a dare shot to. And I know that's one thing that Doc Rivers doesn't really love, and he goes back to the Wizards game. Way too many dare shots he felt there were. Bub Carrington started to hit those. But this Warriors team, this isn't the shooting of the Warriors that we've seen in years past. There are some guys on this team that you can dare to shoot the basketball, and you don't want to be caught flat-footed on a closeout. So those types of things are going to be critical in carrying over some road success here. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. We'll take a closer look at this Warriors team coming up after this.
The Hardwood Homilies continue after this. This is Bucks Talk.
Without an Advent clinic nearby, people suffering needlessly from chronic nasal congestion and sinus infections would be stuck with either Band-Aid or Sledgehammer solutions. Band-Aids are pills or nasal sprays, and they're not true solutions. Surgery is a sledgehammer, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Because most people don't need surgery for nose and sinus issues, nor do they want a 14-day recovery. Our unique Advent approach can, in 20 minutes in our office, open your blocked nose for good, with only 1-day recovery. I'm Advent founder Dr. Kandula. Outside of Advent's four walls, invasive surgery is what they'll recommend. But here you will find effective and convenient in-office solutions to help you stop the need for Band-Aids and avoid the sledgehammer.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better. Most insurance accepted.
We see you out there being an original, which is why you shop at Blaine's Farm and Fleet, because you know we have everything you want and need at prices that give you the most for your money. Now that we're past the holidays, it's time to gift yourself assorted winter boots, 25% off. Large jugs of Aero laundry detergent, just $9.99. And select bags of Taste of the Wild grain-free or ancient grain dog food, $3 off. Find the value you need to do things your way. Blaine's Farm and Fleet. Be an original.
Everyone needs a plumber in their contacts list. And I've got yours, Vince Vitrano here. It's Horner Plumbing. We had a big job on the Vitrano home, needed to move the water hookups for the washer dryer and refrigerator, and we turned to the trusted experts for more than 50 years in Southeast Wisconsin, Horner Plumbing. CJ and Kaylee, they did a great job at the house. All the follow-up with Horner was amazing. Great work and outstanding customer service. Residential, commercial, and new construction, HornerPlumbing.com. Have it in your contact list, because when it's a plumbing emergency, that is not the time you want to start your search. I've got your plumber. Full-service plumbing, water heater repairs and installs, drain cleaning, garbage disposals, bathroom and kitchen renovations. Full-service plumbing. Free quotes and upfront pricing means no surprises. You want a deal? Tell them Vinny sent you, and Horner Plumbing will knock $50 off that first service. Get started now at Horner Plumbing. That's HornerPlumbing.com.
This is Bucks Talk.
All right, Wednesday night, Bucks head to San Francisco to take on the Warriors. We shared where they're at during these 7 games in terms of their metrics. And again, you can't scream it enough. 7 games is not what you want to hang your hat on here. But we point out the numbers to show they're taking some steps in the right direction. So 5th in defense, great, right? overall this season, the Bucks are 18th in defensive efficiency. They were whatever we said they were 19th, somewhere around there in offensive rebounding. It was a 29% offensive rebounding rate, which isn't great. You know, when you see Houston doing what they're doing, 41%. You got right now 18 teams with a 30% or greater offensive rebounding rate. And if we're generous and take Brooklyn's 29.9% rate and round it up, you got 19 teams. But the Bucks would be one of those teams in that stretch. So from just below league average in the 7-game stretch to 29th for the season as a whole. And even more troubling, too, is the defensive glass, where they've been good in these last 7 games. The Bucks as a whole here, 16th in defensive rebounding rate this season and total rebounding rate, 26th. So there's a lot of work to be done. But here's the positives, too, as the schedule starts to pick up with better teams. The next team, the Golden State Warriors. I have a pretty strong feeling about this game for the Bucks for some similar reasons that we've talked about in more recent games. The Bucks are playing bigger, and they've been catching opponents that haven't had as much size, haven't done a good job of protecting points in the paint, weren't particularly good rebounding teams. Certainly that was the case tonight in the matchup with the Sacramento Kings. They struggled on both the offensive and defensive glass coming in. You saw that bear out in the numbers tonight. The Warriors are similar. They got Al Horford, who it's funny to think back all those years when Al Horford was viewed as the honest stopper. But you have Al Horford, who, to be fair, is a part-time player now. Draymond Green is not the Draymond Green that was the defensive centerpiece of the dynasty Warriors. And Draymond Green has never been, known for his offense. He's one of those dare guys. When we talk about you got to know the personnel that's on the floor. Who should you close out against, and who are you going to say, take it, I'm going to give you space, you're not getting past me? Draymond Green is certainly that guy. But it's a Warriors team similar to, the Kings, the Wizards, some of the other groups. Everybody basically but the Memphis Grizzlies in the 7-game stretch that struggles with size. Golden State is 21st in offensive efficiency. The Bucks are 20th. Total season. Their offense is separated by only a couple of tenths of a point per 100 possessions. So they're pretty similar offensively. But the Warriors have been elite defensively. They've been a top 5 defense so far this season. And, the way that they've done that is largely just their switchability. They have done a good job of limiting efficiencies for the opponents. They've done a decent job at making you work for your baskets, and they've forced turnovers. They're also not fouling. You think back to the Bucks, and those two specifically are very seldom linked together. That's what's most interesting about how the Warriors are doing this and how they're really driving down the opponent effective field goal percentage. Because usually if you're going to force a lot of turnovers, it's because you're aggressive, and that aggression can and does typically lead to fouls, and that has not been the case for the Warriors. They're just outside of the top 5 in both of those areas. But there are quite a few areas they struggle with, even with Steph Curry on the floor offensively. They're middle of the pack in efficiency. They do turn the ball over quite a bit, even more than the Bucks. They're in the bottom 5 in turnover rate in the league. They're a middle-of-the-pack offensive rebounding team, which is better than the Bucks, but they're middle of the pack at getting to the free throw line as well. And that's really one of the jarring things, because when Jimmy Butler arrived last year, the Warriors went from basically where they are now to a top 5 team in free throw attempts and their free throw rate. and it's started to regress so far this season. So it's been a chore to score. It's basically been all on the shoulders of Steph Curry. And then defensively, the areas that they struggle with is rebounding. That's the one defensive flaw they have. And again, a lot of that is because of their size. They're in the bottom 10 in defensive rebounding rate. So everything we've said for the last few opponents, it rings true for this matchup with the Warriors too. Protect the ball. And it's going to be more challenging against a team that's better at forcing turnovers, but protect the ball, use your size to your advantage. Getting offensive rebounds, getting defensive rebounds, getting into the paint and scoring there. And if you do those things, this Warriors team is not unassailable. If you do those things, we're talking about 4 straight wins on the road. Then going into a matchup with another tough team, but you're starting at that point to build momentum, not only with this road win streak, but an overall win streak for the first time this season. We'll take a look at the rest of the road trip and start to wrap things up after this on Bucks Talk.
This is Bucks Talk.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes, allergies, cancer. Nothing will keep the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Freighter.com to find out how.
Oh my gosh, are you okay?
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Why do you ask?
Probably because you're wearing a neck brace.
Oh, that?
How did you hurt your neck?
It's from visiting with family.
What?
Every time we get together, we sit on the sofa in the living room, and I keep having to crane my neck from side to side so I can talk to everyone.
So you're saying that you injured your neck talking to your relatives?
You know, this is why we created the SB393 leather sofa at Penny Mustard.
American made with a solid wood frame and a slight curve in its gorgeous design,
making it more conducive to comfortable conversation.
This sofa actually improves relationships.
Good, because these family gatherings can be a real pain in the neck.
The SB393 leather sofa, starting at just $111 a month, with no interest till December 2028, through January 4th at Penny Mustard.
Showrooms in Milwaukee and Chicago.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
With an ever-changing inventory, you never know what great bargains you're going to be able to find at St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores. It makes shopping fun because the best finds are the ones you had no idea you'd even come across. And when they're at thrift store prices, it feels good. And it feels even better to know you're helping us help others. Shop St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul. You're gonna love it all when you shop at St. Vincent de Paul. Old things, new things here for you. We're always changing, we're always new. So many friendly people, smiles from wall to wall. You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul. You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Welcome back to Bucks Talk.
Three straight road wins for the Bucks, back-to-back wins overall. And speaking of overall, they've now won 4 out of their last 5 games. They wrap up this 7-game stretch against sub-500 opponents, going 5-2. I mean, you can make a strong case. Needed to be 6-1, should have been 6-1. All right, fine. But I think bare minimum 5-2 was where it absolutely needed to be, and they got that. So just continue to stack these successes. What we pointed to, you're rebounding the ball better. You've cleaned up on turnovers. You're doing a better job of protecting the ball. Their pace has been very fluid so far this season, to put it mildly. You know, we saw where it was early in the season, and then it just kind of went down and was ground down to a halt, where they're a bottom 5 team in pace so far this season, which I think a lot of coaches will tell you, look, it's it's kind of a polarizing thing because other coaches and other teams and organizations view pace in different ways. It's not just, purely how many possessions do you get, but it's other things like how many transition possessions are we getting? How many possessions in transition? What's our percentage there? What is our average time on the shot clock when we're getting up these possessions? So pace can be very different for a lot of teams. But, the Bucks have consistently been a bottom 5 team in pace, which fine. If you play at your own pace, protect the ball and just get your looks. Get good looks and get more true shot attempts than your opponent. Doesn't matter what the pace number is, in terms of what's the number of possessions per 100 that you're averaging. None of that matters. Your turnovers and everything else, that's what's more important here. So, again, your next opponent, the Warriors, that's an opportunity to continue to carry some of these things over. They're okay in the standings. They're a good a good home team. They're a bad road team. You beat them when you were the home team and they were the road team earlier this season. But you are going to have a size advantage. You get 2 days of rest in between this game as well. And the Bucks, we didn't hear from Doc Rivers tonight because the team was already starting to load the bus. Let's get through this postgame, get on the bus, take it all the way down to San Francisco, and enjoy 2 days out there prepping for the Golden State Warriors. So if you can carry all these things over with the size advantage that you have against a good Warriors defense, but you're going to have opportunities with your size defensively against this team as well, then if you do that, hey, we're talking about a win streak, a bona fide win streak for the first time this season heading into the final 2 games of the road trip. I don't expect a 4-0 road trip. Be great if you got it. When we said you got to start to go on a run here. But look, I think the goal needs to be 3-1. You got one of them. You're going to have a major opportunity against Denver, even with bringing pieces back and Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown. They're still not going to be size. No Nikola Jokic, no Jonas Valanciunas. So you're going to have a major opportunity there. You almost have to view that as we got to win this game. And then let's split these two here between the Warriors and the Lakers on Friday night. But Wednesday night, Bucks in San Francisco to take on the Warriors. A true late-night tip. 9 o'clock tip-off from San Francisco. 8:30 is when our pregame coverage begins on the BMO Bucks radio network. And as always, be sure to stick around after the game for Bucks Talk. We will catch up with you once again Wednesday night.
The proof is in the pudding. Advertisers that hire us stick with us for years and years because they trust us, because we always promptly respond to customer needs.